The sun was falling behind the hills, painting the sky with orange and gold light. The land stretched wide and empty, with only the sound of wind moving through dry grass. Samuel, a quiet rancher who lived far from the town, was riding his horse back home after a long day of trading. He had lived alone for years. His ranch was small but neat, his animals strong, and his days filled with hard work and silence. He didn't complain, but deep down he knew loneliness had become a part of his life. He had no family, no one waiting for him by the fire. Only the open sky kept him company. That evening, as he rode along the rocky trail near the ridge, something caught his eye. At first he thought it was a coyote or a stray animal moving in the shadows. But as he came closer, he saw it was a person, a young woman. She was sitting on the ground, leaning against a rock, her head bowed, her body trembling. Her dress was torn, her hair messy and covered with dust. She looked like she had been walking for days. Samuel stopped his horse, stepped down, and walked slowly toward her. "Miss, are you hurt?" he asked softly. She lifted her face. Her dark eyes were filled with fear. She whispered in broken English, "Please." "No hurt." Samuel's heart softened. He saw the thin rope still tied around her wrists, marks of someone who had treated her cruelly. He took off his coat and wrapped it around her shoulders. "You're safe now," he said. "Come with me. I'll take you home." She was too weak to walk, so he lifted her gently into his arms and placed her on his horse. Her head rested against his chest as they rode through the cooling evening wind. When they reached his cabin, he carried her inside, laid her on his bed, and gave her water. She drank slowly, her hand shaking. He brought her bread and a little soup. "You can stay here," he told her kindly. "No one will hurt you." She didn't answer, only looked at him with tired eyes. He could see that she didn't trust easily. Her spirit was scared but not broken. He lit the fire and sat near it, giving her space. For a long while, neither of them spoke. The only sound was the crackle of wood. Over the next few days, Samuel took care of her quietly. He gave her food, washed her torn dress, and left water by her bed. She didn't talk much, but every day she grew a little stronger. He noticed the careful way she moved, like someone who had lived her whole life watching for danger. When she finally spoke, her voice was soft. "My name." "Naira," she said. He nodded. "That's a good name." "I'm Samuel." She repeated his name slowly, almost shyly. "Samuel." She told him in pieces about what had happened. Her people, the Apache, had been driven from their village. Soldiers came one night, burning homes and taking people away. Naira had run into the desert, hiding for days without food or water. She didn't know if her family was alive. Her eyes filled with pain as she spoke, and Samuel's heart felt heavy. "You're safe here," he said again. "No one will take you away." For the first time, she looked at him with something like hope. As the days passed, Naira began to help around the ranch. She swept the floor, fed the chickens, and carried water from the well. Samuel didn't ask her to, but she wanted to repay his kindness. When he came in from the fields, he often found her humming softly, cleaning or mending clothes. It made the cabin feel alive again. He hadn't heard music in that house for years. One evening, as they sat near the fire, she asked, "Why you help me?" Samuel looked at her carefully. "Because you needed someone." "I've been alone a long time. Maybe I needed someone too." She didn't speak for a while, just watched the flames dance. Then she said, "People say your kind hate my people." He nodded slowly. "Some do, but I don't judge a person by what others say. I judge by what I see, and I see someone who's brave to survive what you did." That night, Naira slept peacefully for the first time in many weeks. But outside their small home, rumors started to spread. When Samuel went to the trading post for supplies, two men watched him closely. One of them said, "Heard you got an Apache woman living with you. That true?" Samuel didn't answer. He tied the rope to his horse calmly. The second man laughed. "You must have lost your mind. Folks won't like that." Samuel turned and looked them both in the eye. "I don't care what folks like," he said quietly. "She stays." When he rode home that day, he felt uneasy. The town could be cruel when it wanted to be. But when he reached the ranch and saw Naira waiting by the fence, smiling faintly as the wind lifted her hair, all the worry faded. She looked so alive, so free, that he knew he couldn't let anyone take that away again. That evening, Naira noticed his bruised hand and frowned. "You fight?" she asked. He nodded. Only words this time. She stepped closer, her voice trembling. "You fight for me?" He shrugged lightly. "I fight for what's right." She looked at him for a long time before whispering, I don't belong here. He looked at her and said softly, You belong where you are cared for. You belong where someone wants you to stay. Her eyes filled with tears. I belong with a man like you, she said in a voice barely louder than a breath. He didn't answer, but his heart tightened. He looked into the fire, pretending to fix the logs, but inside something changed. The cabin no longer felt empty. Over the next few weeks, the two of them found comfort in small things. Samuel taught her how to ride one of his gentler horses. Naira, in turn, taught him Apache words for the stars and the colors of the sky. They laughed when they got each other's words wrong. Sometimes he caught her staring at him with quiet gratitude, and sometimes when she smiled, he forgot all about the loneliness that once filled his days. But danger still lingered. One afternoon, Samuel saw dust rising in the distance, riders coming fast. His heart grew heavy. He knew what it meant. He told Naira to stay inside. The men from town stopped at the gate shouting, We know she's in there, Samuel. Send her out. He stepped forward, his voice calm but strong. She's done nothing wrong. She's under my protection. One of them spat in the dirt. She's Apache. You think the law will protect you? Samuel stared at them coldly. Then the law can come itself. Until then, she stays. The men glared but didn't move closer. The wind picked up, swirling dust around them. Finally, they turned their horses and rode off. When Samuel went back inside, Naira was standing near the door, her eyes wet with fear. He placed a hand on her shoulder. They won't hurt you, he said. You risk too much for me, she whispered. He smiled softly. I'd risk more if I had to. That night, the rain began to fall. The storm washed away the tracks of the riders. Inside the warm cabin, Naira sat near the fire, her hands folded in her lap. She looked at Samuel quietly and said, When you found me, I had no life left, but now I feel like I have one again. He nodded, his voice low. You do, and you'll keep it. Outside, thunder rolled over the hills, but inside, the world felt safe. The rancher and the Apache girl sat by the fire, two lonely souls who had found something rare in the wide, wild land: kindness, trust, and the first quiet beginning of love. Morning sunlight touched the valley after the long, stormy night. The land smelled of wet earth, and the ranch looked calm again. Samuel stepped outside and saw Naira feeding the horses. Her long hair was tied back, her bare feet touching the cool ground. She looked peaceful, but he could still see worry hiding behind her quiet eyes. The memory of the men shouting at the gate had not left her mind. He walked over and said softly, You don't have to be afraid anymore. She looked at him and nodded, but her voice trembled a little. They hate me because I'm not like them. They think I don't belong. Samuel sighed and took off his hat. Then they're wrong, he said. You belong where you're cared for. She looked down at the feed bucket in her hands. You shouldn't protect me. They'll make trouble for you too. He smiled faintly. I've faced worse things than gossip. Let them talk. For the next few days, life returned to quiet work. Naira mended clothes, helped milk the cows, and learned to make bread in the small clay oven behind the house. Samuel went out to repair the fences the storm had broken. Every evening they shared a meal by the fire, and every evening they talked a little more. She told him about her childhood near the river, how her father taught her to fish with her hands, how she missed her people but didn't know if anyone had survived. He listened quietly, not interrupting, his eyes gentle as she spoke. You'll find peace here, he said. You already bring life to this place. One morning a knock came on the door. Samuel opened it and found the sheriff standing there. The sheriff wasn't a cruel man, but he looked uneasy. Samuel, he said, some townsfolk are angry. They say you're hiding one of the Apache. Samuel's jaw tightened. I'm not hiding anyone, he said. She's free. She's safe here. I believe you, the sheriff replied, but others don't. They're scared. They want her gone before they do something foolish. Naira had been listening from behind the door. She stepped out before Samuel could stop her. I'll go, she said quietly. I don't want to bring trouble to your home. Samuel turned to her, his voice firm but kind. No, you don't run anymore. Not from them. Not from fear. The sheriff looked at her and then at Samuel. I'll calm them down, he said finally. But you be careful. After the sheriff rode away, Naira sat by the porch silent. Samuel brought her water. Why do they hate me? She asked. They don't know you, he said. Fear makes people blind. She looked at him for a long time and whispered, "You're not afraid of me?" He smiled a little. "I was afraid of being alone. You cured that." Her eyes filled with tears, but she turned away before they could fall. "You gave me more than safety," she said. "You gave me a place to breathe." That night, as they ate supper, the sky turned orange and gold. Naira looked at him across the table and said softly, "When I first saw you, I thought I would die. Now I live because of you." He didn't know what to say, only nodded, his throat too tight for words. The silence between them was warm, not empty. A few days later, trouble did come. A group of men rode up again, angry and loud. This time they had torches in their hands. Samuel walked out before they reached the porch. "You'll put those down," he said, his voice calm but strong. "She don't belong here," one of them shouted. "You're breaking the law, Samuel." "She belongs to no one," he said, stepping closer. "She's done nothing wrong. If you think I'll turn her out, you'll have to fight me first." For a moment, no one spoke. The wind blew dust across the yard. Then the sheriff appeared again, riding fast. He stopped between them and raised his hand. "Enough," he shouted. "This land's seen enough hate. You all go home." The men grumbled but didn't fight. One by one, they turned their horses and rode off. The sheriff looked at Samuel and nodded. "You did right," he said. When it was over, Naira came out of the house. She ran to Samuel, tears on her cheeks. "You stood for me again," she whispered. He looked at her, his eyes soft. "I'd do it every time." That night, the stars came out brighter than ever. Naira stood near the corral, watching the horses sleep. Samuel joined her. The quiet between them was deep and easy. She looked at him and said in a low voice, "I'll never forget what you did for me. You could have turned away, but you didn't." "I just did what felt right," he said. She stepped closer. "You made me feel like I belonged somewhere again." He didn't answer, only looked into her eyes. The night air carried the smell of sage and rain. For the first time since she arrived, she smiled without fear. In the following weeks, they worked side by side every day. She learned to saddle a horse, to mend fences, and even to ride across the open fields. Samuel showed her how to find water in dry land and how to spot a storm by the color of the clouds. They spoke less with words and more with simple kindness. A shared glance, a soft laugh, a moment of quiet understanding. One afternoon, they rode to the river where she had first found him weeks ago. The water ran clear again after the rains. Naira knelt by the edge, touching the water gently. "It feels alive," she said. He smiled. "Like you," he said. She looked at him, and then at the wide land stretching beyond the horizon. "I thought I lost everything," she whispered. "But maybe I found what I needed most." He asked softly, "What's that?" She turned toward him. "A home." When they rode back, the sky was painted with soft pink and gold. The ranch looked small in the distance, but to her it was the whole world. That night, as the fire crackled, she sat close to him. "When the wind blows," she said, "I hear the voice of my people. They tell me not to be afraid." He looked at her with warmth. "They'd be proud of you." She nodded, her eyes glistening in the firelight. "I belong with a man like you," she whispered again, repeating the words that had once frightened her to say. Samuel smiled, his heart full but calm. "Then you'll never have to walk alone again," he said. The ranch was quiet except for the soft sound of the horses outside. The moon rose high over the plains, silver and still. Two souls, once broken and lost, had found a place where the world's noise could not reach them. And though the town still whispered, and the land still carried its scars, the small cabin on the edge of the desert became something more than a shelter. It became proof that kindness could build bridges where fear once stood, and that even in the wildest corners of the West, a heart could find its true home. The wind passed through the field softly that night, carrying peace across the open land, whispering like an old promise kept.